Imagine standing in your local shoe store, holding a fresh pair of running shoes in your hands. The laces perfectly threaded, the mesh gleaming, the tread still untouched. But have you ever wondered how all those materials actually become the sleek footwear in front of you? The journey from raw resources to the shoe rack is far more complex and fascinating than it might appear. Let's unravel the story step by step. First, consider the materials themselves. A single running shoe can involve over 30 different components, each made for a specific purpose. The upper needs to be flexible yet strong. The sole requires cushioning and grip. The laces, eyelets, tongue, and heel counter all have unique requirements. Most modern running shoes rely on synthetic materials, nylon mesh for breathability, polyurethane foams for support, thermoplastic rubbers for grip. But it wasn't always that way. Leather was once the choice for early running shoes, prized for its durability, but not nearly as light or breathable as what we see now. Let's step into the materials warehouse. Bolts of fabric arrive from textile mills, often thousands of kilometers away. Meshes, often polyester or nylon, are specially engineered for specific patterns, all to provide exactly the right combination of ventilation and support. Polyurethane blocks, destined to be carved into midsoles, arrive in rigid, foam-topped sheets. Meanwhile, spools of thread, eyelets, adhesives, and details like reflective strips pile up, ready to be deployed in production. Now comes the design process, which is where things get creative and surprisingly technical. Engineers and designers team up, creating digital models of every aspect of the shoe. They use computer-aided design software to test flexibility, airflow, shock absorption, and even the way the shoes crease when you step. Sometimes they'll print prototype pieces using 3D printers, especially for experimental heel shapes or arch supports. But before any factory machine starts to run, prototypes are stitched and glued by hand for testing, worn on treadmills under harsh conditions to check for comfort, blisters, and durability. Once the designs pass these torture tests, plans head to the factory floor. And here's where the magic of assembly line manufacturing comes in. While you might picture shoes stitched together by hand, today's running shoes are assembled using a blend of sophisticated machinery and precise manual labor. Let's break down that process, starting with the outsole. Most outsoles are made from rubber, mixed with carbon for extra durability. These compounds arrive at the factory in dense sheets, which punch press machines cut into the familiar, patterned shapes you'll see on the bottom of a normal running shoe. These patterns aren't just decoration. They're the result of thousands of hours of study into how the foot strikes the ground, designed to provide the right traction and guide your stride. Next up, the midsoles. This is often called the heart of the running shoe, where the secret sauce of comfort and performance lives. Manufacturers inject or mold soft, springy foams like EVA, short for ethylene vinyl acetate, into the shaped molds designed specifically for each size and each shoe model. Sometimes manufacturers embed air bubbles, gel pads, or even plates made of carbon fiber, all to give the runner extra bounce or stability. Cutting-edge shoes sometimes have midsole layers fused together using heat and pressure in a process known as compression molding. A bit like pressing waffles, but a lot more high-tech. So, how does the top of the shoe, the upper, come together? Here, rows of industrial sewing machines and laser-guided cutters shape mesh, synthetic leathers, and plastic overlays into intricate patterns. The goal? Maximum support with the least possible weight. Skilled workers stitch, glue, and sometimes even weld the pieces together, checking every seam carefully, as flaws will cause noticeable discomfort or even injury to the runner. Once these main components are ready, it's time for assembly. The inner lining, the foam around the ankle, the tongue, eyelets, heel counter, all are brought together like puzzle pieces. But here's a little-known step called lasting. In the lasting stage, the upper is pulled over a foot-shaped form, the last, and fixed in place, usually with glue or heat-activated adhesives. This process gives the shoe its final shape and fit, ensuring it hugs the foot just right. Then come the final touches. The outsole is glued and often also stitched to the midsole and upper, a delicate process that needs careful alignment to avoid lumpy seams and weak spots. The laces are threaded, tags are attached, insoles are slipped in, then each shoe is cleaned, inspected, and flexed to check for manufacturing defects. Let's pause and zoom out. What actually happens to the shoes next? Every pair is boxed and labeled according to size, model, and color, then stacked on pallets in massive warehouses. But before these shoes ever reach the shelves, some are sampled at random and sent back for more quality checks, even x-rayed for air pockets or messed up seams hidden inside. Only after passing these tests is a pair deemed ready for the retail journey. So, when you finally try on a running shoe in a store, you're standing at the endpoint of an incredibly long, complex chain. From carefully engineered materials sourced from across the globe, sculpted and shaped by both machines and skilled humans, to the precise steps ensuring comfort, safety, and performance, each shoe is the result of 1,000 finely tuned details. Now, let's reflect. What does this massive choreography of materials and machines teach us? First, notice how little actually happens by accident. Every layer, stitch, and glue bead is the result of research, trial and error, and a relentless pursuit of improvement. Even a slight tweak in foam density or stitch pattern can change how a shoe feels at the end of a marathon. Second, running shoes are a small window into how our world turns raw materials into products we take for granted. The mesh that keeps your feet cool was once plastic pellets. The bouncy midsole started as a block of chemical foam. What we see as just a shoe is the result of enormous global networks and local expertise. Here's something interesting to consider. How do manufacturers balance innovation with tradition? On one hand, there's constant pressure to make shoes lighter, faster, more durable. On the other, runners crave classic fits, familiar support, and reliability. The challenge is part science, part art, blending the new with the tried and tested. Now, let's listen to a line from a poem that echoes the endurance and purpose behind each running shoe. The miles to run are measured not by distance, but by persistence. Even in manufacturing, it's persistence that drives progress. Every failed prototype, every frayed seam, every ounce shaved from the weight of a sole. These are the miles that happen before you even untie the box. Think too about the hands and minds involved along the way. The engineers in the lab, the textile workers at the looms, the designers sketching late at night, the factory assemblers checking each tongue and lace. Each brings their own form of craftsmanship and innovation, often in places far from where the shoes will eventually pound city pavements or mountain trails. Here's an elegant paradox. The more technological and standardized the manufacturing becomes, the more we need that human eye for detail. Machines can cut, glue, and press at impressive speeds, yet a single missed stitch or misplaced overlay can ruin an entire production run. So every pair of running shoes also reflects a partnership between automation and painstaking handwork. Consider the impact of sustainability, one of the new frontiers in shoe manufacturing. As awareness of the environmental cost grows, innovators are experimenting with recycled materials, less toxic glues, and even shoes designed to be completely taken apart and recycled at the end of their life. This adds a new layer of complexity, forcing designers and manufacturers to rethink old processes and invent new ones. Now, the next time you slide your foot into a running shoe, remember, you're not just putting on a piece of sports equipment. You're stepping into a world woven together by chemistry, design, physics, and no small amount of creativity. Each time your feet hit the pavement, you're experiencing not only comfort and support, but also the sum total of countless hours of invention, debate, testing, and adjustment. There's a quiet poetry in all of this. The journey from a warehouse of fabric and foam to rows of sneakers lined up at the store is not just efficient, it's imaginative. It's a reminder of how human curiosity and determination can transform ordinary substances into something greater. Something that carries dreams, ambitions, and entire marathons with every stride. So, next time you're tying your shoes, take a moment to notice the tiny details that make them unique. The way the mesh stretches across your foot, the gentle bounce of the midsole, the grip of the tread as you take your first step. Each feature is a small triumph of manufacturing, a testament to the people, machines, and ideas that turned raw material into a tool built for motion. From humble plastics and textiles, through high-temperature machines and hands working with deliberate care, right to that final satisfying moment when the shoes hit the rack, ready for their next chapter with you. This is the story of running shoes, made possible by the creativity and persistence of thousands, and by the marvels of modern industry, innovation, and just a little bit of everyday magic.